Seriously.
The fascism of Donald Trump, his administration, and his followers can be summed up in one quote.
Atticus talks about, a mob acts on emotion.
By legendary actor Jeff Daniels, recalling his time playing Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird.
You fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Vice President Pence needs to not open the 7 state electors' envelopes for the states that I mentioned. Set them aside and send it all back to those state legislatures.
Well, we got to stop this steal from happening because if we don't, nobody's ever going to vote again.
We're not going to take it anymore. This is our country.
On the West Front, the mob tore down scaffolding, battled their way through the last line of police defense, and broke into the Capitol building itself.
Respect for absent contemplation and mostly absent responsibility. What they get is anonymity.
It is moments such as these that Daniels portrays beautifully in his appearance on MSNBC.
Rioters, outnumbering law enforcement by more than 50-1, attacked, dragged, and beat police officers. In testimony to Congress, former D.C. Metro Police officer Michael Fanone recounted being pulled into a crowd of protesters.
I was electrocuted again and again and again with a taser.
This is our capital!
In total, nearly 150 police officers were injured on the day.
A conscience can be exhausting. It'll keep you up at night. A mob's a place where people go to take a break from their conscience.
More from Daniels' foreshadowing.
I was looking at some of those big, once incredible job-producing factories, and my wife, Melania, said, "What happened?" I said, "Those jobs have left Ohio. They're all coming back. They're all coming back. Coming back. Don't move. Don't sell your house."
He said this on the campaign trail, but did not deliver per a CBS News fact check. By the time Trump left office in January 2021, the United States had 178,000 fewer manufacturing jobs than when his presidency began. They cite the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, for this data. From the outlet once more, before the pandemic hit, the number of manufacturing jobs in the United States had largely been growing since 2010, according to the BLS. By the time former President Barack Obama left office in 2017, the sector had mostly rebounded from the Great Recession, though there were 195,000 fewer manufacturing jobs than at the start of his presidency.
That's what I see when I look at Trump's rallies. That's when I see the lies spewing at these people and people going, "I got to believe in something, and he said he'd bring my manufacturing job back and she didn't, and I'm all in."
He's right, because Trump still says this, knowing full well we have nearly, 80 years or so of him doing the opposite.
Kung flu, yeah. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? That could be a Mexican plane up there. They're getting ready to attack.
Why do we want these people from, quote, all these whole countries here? Mr. Trump was referring to African nations and Haiti before suggesting the U.S. should have more people from places like Norway.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
Daniels cuts through the BS here as well.
But at the end of the day, aside from, I don't want to pay taxes, it's race. It's race. This is about the Republican Party, or a wing of it, going, this is our last chance to save the party. And if we don't, it's the end of the Republican Party. And the only way they can do that was to tap the race button and say, go ahead, it's okay. And he did, and they did. And that was the only card they had left to play, and they played it. And they aren't going to go quietly.
And thus, we had January 6th.
And that's why you look at the cowardice of the 15 or so Republicans in the Senate who are still quiet. Who are the heroes going to be? Is it going to be the Daniel Ellsberg Pentagon Papers guy? Who's the guy at the Justice Department that's going to go, here, Washington Post, here's the unredacted, go. I'm waiting for that guy.
We're all waiting for that guy.
We need people like that. And to look at Congress with all their politics going, well, if I do this, I can't do that. You're all worthless to me right now. You are all worthless. I need people to stand up and be heroic. Who are you? Because democracy is at stake.
Wow.
We still are. Instead,
are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Arizona that the teller has verified appears to be regular in form and authentic?
Mr. Vice President, I, Paul Gosar from Arizona.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise? I rise up
for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a senator?
Yes, it is.
It is.
This is what we have. Morally bankrupt individuals like Representative Paul Gosar of Arizona and Senator Rafael Ted Cruz of Texas objecting to the election results of 2020 and trying to bring in a dictatorship to our country. There are no good guys on this side of the aisle because they fall in line to keep the legalized bribery going in the form of campaign contributions by the top 1% who benefit from having brainless stooges like these in office for extended periods of time. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYTsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day. No shock. I am a fan of higher learning with Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay. Y'all have seen me play a few different clips from their show. Whatever the Ringer is paying them, I gotta be honest, it's probably not enough. Their show is great. It's awesome. Van doesn't back down from any of his statements. He will bring on people that he vehemently disagrees with and tries to have a discussion. They are brutally honest, and I appreciate them for it. And I think Van and Rachel had one of the best takes about Donald Trump. And I'm going to show that to you, uninterrupted, and then we'll discuss. Here that is.
We've never seen anyone treated with the singular amount of white privilege that Donald Trump is being treated with. This is a masterclass in white privilege. Trump can't say enough to be racist.
Correct.
He can't commit enough crimes to be a criminal. He can't fail enough to be a failure. And he can't say enough stupid things to be stupid. He is so shielded and insulated by the idea and the concept of whiteness that he is untouchable.
Yeah.
The thought conjured around him matters more than any reality. Any reality. He is a Christian that doesn't know the Bible, that porn stars, that is
grabs
women by the is the least Christ-like, but the sheer promise of the whiteness that exists inside of Donald Trump is enough for everyone, white and black people, a lot of them who worship whiteness and aspire to the level of whiteness that Trump has. It's enough for them to say, hey, he's still our guy, no matter what.
It's the whiteness he guarantees to protect. That's what he represents, right? It's their being that he guarantees to protect. And that's true. That's something that they won't say, but that they're voting for.
Very, and I mean very well done. But let's expand upon this, shall we? Politico's Aaron Aubrey Kaplan would write, Trump was and continues to be the chief executive, not of a nation or of the Republican Party or even of a cult, but of a culture, namely a culture of white supremacy. Kaplan continues, it is about racialized power, an assumed authority of white people, chiefly, of course, men, to set and enforce the social and moral order as they see fit, a la Harrison Butker, often in the service of values that on their face sound noble, like tradition or family. In this culture, the presidency, electoral politics, the Constitution, rule of law, democratic ideals, liberalism, decency, all are incidental. They can never matter as much as white people's ultimate right to power. This is spot on. She would add, the culture of white supremacy, has gone fully, almost gleefully mainstream. Republican policy agendas have been replaced with relentless attacks at the time. Of course, we never hear about this anymore. Critical race theory and the whole notion of social justice. Voter suppression is orchestrated out in the open. January the 6th, an attempt by a largely white minority to subvert democracy, has been met with less than universal condemnation from GOP leadership because they're cowards and they were in on it. That's why. Trump has gone on the record saying, I think there is a definite anti-white feeling in this country. I don't think it would be a very tough thing to address, frankly. But I think the laws are very unfair right now. What laws exactly? Per Reuters, here was his answer. When asked about it, he answered with a non-answer. He did not specify examples of anti-white bias nor policy prescriptions in the interview. Thus, Tricia Rose, director of the Center for the Study of Race and Ethnicity in America at Brown, would tell the outlet, there's always, quote, there's always been an ability to foment this kind of anxiety and frustration among many whites whenever an effort to level the playing field for non-whites has been successful in any way. We fast forward to the hate rally that took place. Some online are equating it to a Nazi rally that took place at the same venue in 1939, that venue being Madison Square Garden. I did a TikTok on this. I believe that, yes, you should condemn every single part of that rally. But you know who I feel is getting a pass that shouldn't is the owner of Madison Square Garden, a trust fund baby himself, James Dolan. He owns Madison Square Garden. He owns the New York Knicks. He owns the New York Rangers. He owns Radio City Music Hall. I'll say my thoughts for him here at the end. So we fast forward to that rally. Trump's target is the largely anecdotal fear of migrant crime and crime rates that continue to decline. But like George Wallace's rhetoric from nearly 50 years ago, it's also fear of the other, fear of black men. In 1968, the fear of a black woman in 2024, wrote Michael A. Cohen, who makes the case on how Trump's rally echoed George Wallace's. Cohen continues, perhaps above all, Wallace's appeal was driven by fear or change, fear that the progress of the present would replace the nostalgia of the past. One analyst called Wallace's message an ideology of preservatism, or in modern terms, MAGA. Making America Great Again. In 1968, Wallace warned that anarchy prevails today in the streets of the large cities of our country, making it unsafe for you to even go to a political rally. Oh, doesn't that sound familiar from what we heard a few days ago? Cohen concludes, in short, Wallace succeeded in influencing the political debate, but enjoyed none of his own political success. Nearly 5 decades later, his political toxicity and his divisive rhetoric haven't been dispatched to the ash can of history as it should. Instead, it has been adopted and weaponized by the modern Republican Party. Let me say this. Only one man in the race has been accused of housing discrimination against black people. Only one man's father was arrested at a Klan rally. When seeing the atrocities committed by police where black Americans are killed at a nearly 3-to-1 rate, he would say to a journalist, I believe with CBS Evening News, what about white people? What about white people? Was his retort. Only one candidate, per the reporting, had Hitler's speeches by his bedside. Only one candidate met with a proud white nationalist named Nick Fuentes. And then, of course, when he was questioned by, I don't know Nick Fuentes. I don't know who that is. I'm not familiar with him. Yeah, you are. You're courting his vote. You're courting the base he has. It took him forever to denounce the endorsement of David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Triple K. He is friendly with white nationalist groups. Only one candidate has an avowed white nationalist in their cabinet to write speeches. That's Stephen Miller. And he's in the Trump team. He's writing the immigration policy. That's him. Only one group of supporters waved Nazi flags in Florida, and also Confederate flags in the Capitol. And yet he calls them fine people. Only one person in the race spouts great replacement theory over and over again. So when I see Van and Rachel go over this, it is not only well put, but it is brutally honest that more people need to be discussing.
This group of people are actually, they're a group, in my opinion, a group of American fascists. Their idea of America is America where everybody agrees with them.
In 2024, labor is front and center. To the late legendary artist Pete Seeger, it's been around for quite some time.
Seeger wrote some of the most defining songs of the 20th century peace movement. If I Had a Hammer, Where Have All the Flowers Gone, Turn, 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 expressed in melody the views of millions who opposed war and nuclear weapons and yearned to create a better world. In the 50s, Pete Seeger opposed Senator Joe McCarthy's witch hunt. He was called before the House Un-American Activities Committee, almost jailed for refusing to answer questions. Seeger became a prominent civil rights activist, helped popularize the anthem, We Shall Overcome. He was also a vocal critic of the Vietnam War and inspired a generation of protest singers.
Seeger was much more than an artist. He was a model of dissent. Seeger defied the American government, stood up for the rights of its citizens, and used the power of folk music to bring social change. He'd perform at labor rallies and unite everyday people. In one word, his tunes would represent resistance. With this mindset and approach, he would pay the price for it.
Pete Seeger was under government surveillance for nearly 30 years. It turns out it was not an anti-war anthem that caught the government's eye, but a letter. Newly released documents showed the FBI began spying on Pete Seeger as an Army private in 1943 because he wrote a letter protesting a proposal to deport all Japanese American citizens at the end of World War II.
As Amy Goodman at Democracy Now! Goes over in detail, Seeger would marry his wife Toshi, a Japanese-American filmmaker. The two would reject fascism at every turn. You see, Seeger's agenda per the Times paralleled the left. He sang for labor in the 40s and 50s, civil rights marches and anti-Vietnam rallies in the 60s, environmental causes, and more. One song that stands out, First Things First. Shout out to Nicholas for the comment and recommendation on our Billie Holiday Strange Fruit deep dive. Ask and you shall receive.
Join the strike, join the union, fight for your better condition and better pay.
He suffered a stroke in the warehouse on Thanksgiving. I couldn't believe that there was no support for him.
Historic labor protests against the nation's largest private employer, Walmart, are expanding to 28 stores in 12 states.
Roughly 130 employees across 7 Tesla dealerships decided to go on strike because Tesla refused to sign a collective bargaining agreement for them.
As the labor movement continues to grow, we reflect. Florence Reese, born in the coal mining camp of Fork Ridge, Tennessee, would write the original lyrics after witnessing violence between coal miners and coal operators in 1930s Kentucky. Her husband, a union organizer, would nearly be captured by armed men that were hired by the coal company when they raided her home. Which side are you on would become a theme for labor in the midst of the coal wars of the early 30s. It spoke of the good news of the union, the violence of the gun thugs, the hardships for workers and families, and the necessity of deciding which side one was on. It would be known as the Harlan County War. The strikes spanned over a decade by the underpaid and overworked coal miners against the powerful mining companies. Sheriff J.H. Blair sided with the elite, leading to federal soldiers being dispatched to the fields, homes being raided, and an unknown amount of people perishing. Only in 1938 did the coal masters agree on unionization. She'd say they had put Sam in jail. He was organizing, trying to get better working conditions in the mines. I felt I had to do something to express what I felt. People had to take sides. They had to know they were on one side or the other. Her father, a miner, would die when she was just 15. 18 years of age due to a cave-in. Her husband, Sam, would die of the black lung. Pete Seeger, then working with the Highlander Folk School, caught wind of the tune and visited Florence. She'd say, and I quote, "He started singing it, he had that old banjo, and it nearly busted my ears." This was a time when Seeger was with the Almanac Singers, a group that carried messages of supporting unions and taking stances being anti-war. Pete Seeger begins with a stark, descending banjo riff, a foil for the upcoming single-string guitar melody, and then sings the first verse. The chorus is a haunting response to his call, sung by a group of voices, wrote Tom Maxwell of Long Reeds. To be clear, it is chilling to hear the chorus, an echo of contrasting styles, all sung in unison, that shows us together as the human race fighting against the evils of the top 1% who demand we work more and take/get paid less.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Adds folkvalley.com. The sound is cacophonous, evoking the confusion and chaos of a miners' strike, before soaring away into a rounding reel that has a hoedown quality to it. The song's spry tempo mimics the urgency of the question and the demand for an answer that is expressed in action.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
The dynamism of the second stanza goes as follows. My daddy was a miner, and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won. After the chorus, Seeger belts out, they say in Harlan County, there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair, paying homage to the sickening sheriff that brutalized and tried quelling the labor movement of Harlan County, Kentucky. As Rolling Stone notes, Seeger popularized it and broadened its meaning over the years, turning it into an anthem of progressive solidarity. Verse 4 reads, oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man? Flat out, straight up, unapologetically demanding that a line in the sand be drawn. The final paragraph. Don't scab for the bosses. Don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Encyclopedia.com would then outline how this song has withstood the test of time. The song eventually passed over from the Union movement to the Civil Rights movement. In 1961, Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE leader James Farmer, revised the lyrics to suit the circumstances in the South during the Freedom Rides. Whenever CORE members perceived that other African Americans were betraying the cause, they sang Florence Reese's song. In 1965, the song inspired marchers for voting rights in Selma. It has outlived Reese, who died in 1986 of a heart attack at her home in Tennessee.
I ask for nothing for myself, for I am dead, for I am dead. All that I ask is that for peace. You fight today, you fight today, so that the children of this world may live and grow and laugh and play.
From Maxwell and longreads.com once more, now it's our turn. The new lyric has yet to be written, but the circumstances that will inspire it are with us daily. There may indeed be one humanity. There may indeed be no such thing as other people's children. But right now, this world is binary, and we are called to choose which side are you on.